Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I didn't send a notification out because I didn't think I was going to do another video, but I am doing another video. I saw this, it annoyed the hell out of me, so I'm doing another video. $708 billion. $708 billion. I want you to let that settle into your consciousness for the moment. Like, think of that number. Let it soak in what that number means. The quantity, the volume of that number. If you bill $1 bill, $708 billion into stacks, what would that look like? Try to figure that out in your head, because I want you to understand this level of money that we're talking about. We're talking about nearly $1 trillion dumped on a war machine. $1 trillion. We act as if Russia is our next global enemy. They've attacked democracy, after all, right? The spearfishing of John Podesta releasing factually true information showing that the Democratic Party was cheating Bernie Sanders is an attack on democracy. All right, fine. How much do they spend on their military? The amount, do you know that the amount that we increase our military by is more than what they spend, than what Russia spends on the entirety of their military? China, if I'm not mistaken, is up the amount they were spending on their military. But even that is like a pittance from the standpoint of what the United States spends on its military. We are supposed to believe that the quantity in this case somehow gets across any level of idea of value. Well, how can you have any level of idea of value if it's automatically just a given that whatever they come up with, whatever number that they throw up in the air, that a bunch of congressmen, senators, and representatives will jump on it to sign on to it and say, yes, whatever the military wants from the standpoint of the treasure of this country, we're going to give it to them. And those senators and those House of Representative members go out there and do it. And the president dutifully signs it into law. Wasting the money of this country. Do you realize how much we're wasting on this? Do you honestly believe we spend 4 times as much for healthcare as anyone else in this world? I think it's like 4 times as much as any other nation. It might be down to 2, but whatever. Like almost twice as much. I'll say twice as much. I'm safer on twice as much. We're like 33rd in the world from the standpoint of healthcare. It might be 37th, but we're like 30th. Meaning what you're spending in money, you're not necessarily getting it back in value, because you're in a capitalist society and there's a certain amount of fluff which the 1% are going to extract a certain amount of value out of the process. Meaning that the amount of you're spending, a lot of that is just going into somebody's pocket. It's not going into actual value for money. That's the first point. The second point is, people don't look at it that way. They look at it in this weird way, as if just because you're spending all this money, you're getting the same level of value as maybe some other country that is not spending that quantity of money, but doesn't have people who are as rapacious of taking their share. Yes, the amount of money that you're spending does to some degree lend up to a certain amount of military capability. But how do we actually know how it actually compares? Meaning, I guess my point is, it is almost impossible to determine value for dollar in a situation where the amount of money that's given into the military is given in a way that's almost done in a religious manner. And we've seen Catholic priests, they do fuck kids. Nobody wanted to say the Catholic priests fucked kids, but you didn't want to look behind the curtain. And oh my God, the horrors that were behind the curtain. But hey, they're religious men. They're not bad guys. They wouldn't do that. Yes, they would. I'm going to show an article about World Socialist website. This annoyed the shit out of me. The authorization bill came up. The only Democrats that were against it were the ones that were running for the presidency, or most likely to be running for the presidency. Everybody else signed on for it. The Republicans signed on for it. The House of Representatives passed their bill with, again, little to no debate. It's just agreed. It's just agreed upon. you bring up, what about making sure there's pre-K? Every kid should get a good and decent education from start. What about pre-K? Yeah, that's kind of expensive. It's kind of pricey, buddy. What about making sure everybody had health care? I mean, after all, single payer would be cheaper. It's kind of pricey. It's kind of pricey. Now, the fact is, nothing that any lefty has ever come up with amounts anywhere near to this. This blows the roof off of this idea of expenditure. And you ask, what are we spending it on? And it's the knife and the bullet killing people. Essentially, America with a gun going around the world shooting people in the face. For proverbially, of course, but in reality also. Shooting people in the face. Every bullet that you expend is another bullet that needs to be replaced. Hey, that's a business model. But god damn it, think of the business model to which you're doing. My question is more so to the American public. Is this really what you want to spend your treasure on? Is this really what you want to spend your treasure on? Do you understand that for the most part, you taking the posture that you've taken around the world have allowed you to kill and murder and maim and create chaos and havoc? That chaos and havoc has been wreaking chaos and havoc on the European nations. We look over there at the world and be like, Jesus Christ, look at all those refugees. And you'd be shocked as shit to realize that many Americans don't make the connection that those refugees were some degree connected to what we were doing in our military campaigns in the Middle East. We are creating our monsters. That's the point I'm trying to make. And not just creating our monsters. We're creating chaos in other areas of the globe. If the moral argument of we are killing people and we are creating chaos in areas which are creating other people who are going to go out and kill other people, if that argument doesn't necessarily matter, maybe the argument of Jesus Christ, how much money are we spending to do this? This is a lot of money. This is a lot of money. Your water systems are crumbling. At the very least, shouldn't the job of government be the basic things? Meaning, if you put taxes in the government, should you get services out for the taxes that you put into the government? Shouldn't you get clean water? Shouldn't your bridges work and don't fall down? Should your roads not have potholes in them? Should you have, at this point, flying cars? And even if not flying cars, should you have the capacity to have high-speed rail to go from point A to point B? I've been to Europe. I've seen their trains. They're fucking awesome. Shouldn't we have bullet trains in the United States also? I'm saying, shouldn't you have a better country? We're spending $600 or $708 billion on fucking war. Don't you want a better world? Think about what that money could... Do you realize part of that budget could evaporate? Poverty in this country. Poverty in this country. Blink of an eye. Not a blink of an eye, but I'm making the point that the money that we're spending murdering and killing people abroad, a portion of that money could get rid of poverty in this country. But no, that's too expensive. We need to spend it killing and shooting people in the face. Can we spend $600 billion? Can we keep $100 billion and use it for something that's actually worthwhile in the country? No, that's also too expensive. We need all of the $708 billion. Fucking amazing. And absolutely aggravating. The United States approved the National Defense Authorization Act, a blueprint for $708 billion in Pentagon spending, voting Wednesday by a margin of 87-10. 46 Republicans were joined by 41 Democrats in approving the bill, which now goes to the White House for President Trump's signature. That's amazing. They call Donald Trump every name in a book. Lunatic, crazy, unhinged. But hey, here's $708 billion military spending. Congratulations. The part I want to get to is a breakdown of what this money can be used for. The figures in the fiscal 2019 will be the $617 billion for regular Pentagon operations, plus $69 billion for overseas contingency operations and $22 billion for nuclear weapons operations of the Department of Energy, which oversee the construction of atomic warheads. It is instructive to compare the provisions of this legislation with the legislation requirements to meet urgent social needs for which no such resource are being mobilized. The $617 billion in regular Pentagon spending is as much as the United States spends on public education, combining local, state, and federal governments, $620 billion in 2016. It is also 10 times what Russia spends on its military, $61 billion. The $69 billion for wars in Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan, and drone warfare across North Africa and the Middle East is more than twice the amount of money required to feed all 862 million malnourished people in the world. In the world, not just in this country. The bill authorizes $24.1 billion for shipbuilding, including the building of 13 new warships, among them a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier and 2 nuclear-powered submarines armed with nuclear weapons. The same amount of money, $24.1 billion, will provide decent housing for every homeless person in the United States, with enough left over to replace toxic water infrastructure in Flint, Michigan. Think about that. Are you shitting me? So between the things, you get an idea on what matters to human beings based on, to some degree, what they do. Yes, the incentives, but also in what they do. $708 billion. And a portion of that would get rid of all homelessness. All homelessness. You're talking about the Russia thing. Your problem is not the goddamn Russians. Your problem is closer to home. The bill provides $12 billion for new aircrafts, including $7.6 billion for 77 new F-35 joint fighter strike fighters, $2.3 billion for 20 short takeoffs and vertical landings, F-35B Lightning II joint fighter aircrafts, and $1.1 billion for 9 F-35C fighters used by the Navy. The same amount of money will provide free maternal and prenatal care for every mother in the developing world. It will be twice the sum required to provide treatment and vaccinations to prevent 4.4 million malaria deaths. The working class must oppose squandering vast sums of money on the military, and not only because it represents a colossal waste of resources that can meet urgent social needs, but because the buildup of this vast military intelligence apparatus is a deadly threat to both the democratic rights and the physical survival of the entire human race. Agreed. That's angry. If you're not pissed off, you're not getting what is being said. What is the world that you want? I mean, and ultimately the world that you want is being squandered on murdering people abroad and building tools and weapons and systems to go and kill and murder people abroad. This is an amazing waste of money. And you think of real things and real people that are being adversely affected by the way in which we organize ourselves. This is squandering resources, not like federal resources, on shit like this. And people wonder why people pull themselves out of the political process. It doesn't matter the party. Both of them are in on this. This is one of those things where they join hands when they need to join hands. They make shit happen in an instant when they want to make shit happen. But hey, you have water where your kids are drinking lead. Oh, my back. Oh, man. Oh, God. I would love for your kid not to drink lead-laced water. Man, I really would. But those fucking Republicans. Yeah. I'm going to end this. I'm not going to bitch and rant. $708 billion essentially being thrown down the goddamn hole. And it's even worse than being thrown down the goddamn hole, because ultimately they're using it to kill people and murder people abroad. Some people may say that's somewhat of an oversimplification. Not so much, or at the very least not far from it. What are we doing with that military apparatus? And let's not lie with this Orwellian term calling it Department of Defense. It's not the Department of Defense at all. It's the Department of War. And it's exactly what they've been doing. I'll end it here. Have a good one, guys.